Chapter 4 Bhagavad Gita Transcendental Knowledge. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavanahamavyayam Vivasvan Manave Praha Manurikshvakave Bravit.
The personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku.
Evam praptam imam rajeshayo viduhu sakale neha mahata yoga nastam parantapa.
This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplined succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost.
Sayevayam maya tedya yoga prokta puratanaha bhaktosmi saka cheti rahasyam hetaduttamam.
That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science.
Arjuna Vacha Aparam Bhavato Janma Param Janma Vivasvataha Kadhame Tadvijaniyam Tvamavda Proktavaniti.
Arjuna said, the sun god Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him?
Sri Bhagavan Vacha Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacharjuna tanyaham veda sarvani natvam vetam param tapa.
The personality of Godhead said, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy.
Ajopi sanya veyatma bhutanam ishwaropi san prakritim swamadhishtaya sambhava matma mayaya.
Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, by my internal energy I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form.
Yada yada hi dharmasya glanid bhavati bharata abhyudhanam dharmasya tadhatmanam trujamyaham.
Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself.
Paritranaya sadhunam vinasaya cha dushkrutam dharma samstapanardhaya sambhavami yuge yuge.
All the liberated souls in ancient times acted with this understanding.
Page number 192. Just go to page 192. Go ahead.
To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principle of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium.
Janma karma cha me devyam evam yo veti tattvatva tyaktya deham punarjanma neti mameti sarjuna.
One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in the material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna.
Vitaraga bhayakrodha manmaya mamuparshita bhavo jananadvasa putamad bhagata.
Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me.
Ye yatha mam prapadyante tamsate vya bhajamyaham mama vartamanu vartante manushya partha sarvasha.
As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha.
कंसन्ता कर्मणां सिद्धिं यजन्त हि वदेवसा क्षिप्रं हि मनुष्ये लोके सिद्धिर्भवति कर्मजा.
Men in this world desire success in fruitive activities, and therefore they worship the demigods. Quickly, of course, men get results from fruitive work in this world.
चतुर्वर्ण्यं मया सृष्टं गुणकर्म विभागशः तस्य कर्तरामपि मां विद्यकुर्तरमव्ययम्.
According to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created by me. And although I am the creator of the system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, being unchangeable.
नमं कर्माणि लिम्पान्ति न मे कर्मा फलेश्वरा इति मां यो भजन्ति कर्मभिर्न स बध्यते.
There is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work.
एवं ज्ञात्वा न कर्ता कर्म पूर्वैरपि मुमुक्षुभिः कुरु कुर्मैव तस्मात् त्वां पूर्वे पर्वतरं कृतम्.
All the liberated souls in ancient times acted with this understanding of my transcendental nature. Therefore, you should perform your duty following in their footsteps.
किं कर्म किम कर्मेति काव्योऽपि यात्र मोहिता तत्ते कर्म प्रवक्ष्यामि यजनात् मोक्ष्यसे शुभात्.
Even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Now, I shall explain to you what is action, what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all misfortune.
कर्मणो हि अपि बोधव्यं बोधव्यं च विकर्मणा अकर्मणश्च बोधव्यं गहना कर्मणो गति.
The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is.
कर्मणि अकर्मय पश्येद अकर्मणि च कर्मय स बुद्धिमान मनुष्येषु स युक्त कृत्स्न कर्म कृत.
One who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men, and he is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities.
यस्य सर्वे समारंभा काम संकल्प वर्जिता ज्ञानाग्निदग्ध कर्माणं तमाहु पंडितं बुधः.
One is understood to be in full knowledge whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification. He is said by sages to be a worker for whom the reactions of work have been burnt up by the fire of perfect knowledge.
त्यक्त्वा कर्म फलासंगं नित्यतृप्तो निराश्रय कर्माणि अभिप्रवृत्तोऽपि नैव किंचित् करोति स.
Abandoning all attachment to the results of his activities, ever satisfied and independent, he performs no fruitive action, although engaged in all kinds of undertakings.
निराशीर्यत चित्तात्मा त्यक्त सर्व परिग्रह शारीराम केवलम कर्म कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम्.
Such a man of understanding acts with mind and intelligence, perfectly and acts only for the bare necessities of life. Thus,
यद्रचालाभ सन्नुष्टो द्वन्द्वतीतो विमत्सर समसिद्धव सिद्धौ च कृत्वापि न निबध्यते.
He who is satisfied with gain, which comes of its own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled, although performing actions.
गतसंगस्य मुक्तस्य जानवस्तित चेतसा यज्ञयाचारत कर्म समग्रं प्रविलीयते.
The work of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence.
ब्रह्मार्पणं ब्रह्मवीर ब्रह्मग्नौ ब्रह्मणाहुतं ब्रह्मैव तेन गन्तव्यं ब्रह्मकर्म समाधिना.
A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature.
देवामेवा परे यज्ञं योगिना पर्युपासते ब्रह्मज्ञा वा परे यज्ञं यज्ञनैवोपजुह्वति.
Some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them, and some of them offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahman.
श्रोत्रदीनीन्द्रियाण्यन्ये संयमाग्निषु जुह्वति शब्ददीन् विषयान्य इन्द्रियाग्निषु जुह्वति.
Some, the unadulterated brahmacharis, sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of mental control, and others, the regulated householders, sacrifice the objects of the senses in the fire of the senses.
सर्वाणि इन्द्रियकर्माणि प्राणकर्माणि चापरे आत्मा संयम योगाग्नो जुह्वति ज्ञानदीपिते.
Others, who are interested in achieving self-realization through control of the mind and senses, offer the functions of all the senses and of the life breath as oblations into the fire of the controlled mind.
द्रव्ययज्ञस्तपोयज्ञ योगयज्ञस्तथा परे स्वाध्यायुज्ञानयज्ञश्च यतय संसितव्रता.
Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, and others by performing severe austerities, by practicing the yoga of eightfold mysticism, or by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge.
अपाने जुवति प्राणं प्राणे पानं तथा परे प्राणापान गतिरुद्ध्वा प्राणायाम परायणा अपरे नियताहारा प्राणान् प्राणेषु जुह्वति.
Still others who are inclined to the process of breath restraint to remain in trance practice by offering the movement of the outgoing breath into the incoming and the incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Others, curtailing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice.
सर्वेप्येते यज्ञविदो यज्ञशपित कल्मषा यज्ञशिष्टामृतो भुजो यान्ति ब्रह्म सनातनम्.
All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reactions, and having tasted the nectar of results of sacrifices, they advance toward the supreme eternal atmosphere.
नायं लोकोस्त्यं यज्ञस्यं कुतोऽन्य कुरु सततम्.
O best of Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next?
एवं बहुविधा यज्ञा वितता ब्राह्मणो मुखे कर्मान् विदितान् सर्वान् एवं ज्ञात्वा विमोक्ष्यसे.
All these different types of sacrifice are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated.
श्रेयान् द्रव्यमयाद् यज्ञात् ज्ञानयज्ञ परन्तप सर्वं कर्माखिलं पार्थ ज्ञाने परिसमाप्यते.
O chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all, O son of Pritha, all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge.
तद्विधि प्रणिपातेन परिप्रश्नेन सेवया उपदेक्षयन्ति ते ज्ञानं ज्ञानिनस्तत्त्वदर्शिनः.
Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth.
यज्ञात्वा न पुनर्मोहम् एवं यास्यसि पाण्डव येन भूतान्यशेषाणि द्रक्ष्यस्य यत्मन्यथो मयि.
Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. For by this knowledge you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they are mine.
अपि चेदसि पापेभ्यः सर्वेभ्यः पापकृततमः सर्वज्ञानप्लवेनैव वृजिनं सन्तरिष्यसि.
Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries.
यथेधांसि समिद्नोऽग्निर्भस्मसात् कुरुतेऽर्जुन ज्ञानाग्नि सर्वकर्माणि भस्मसात् कुरुते तथा.
As a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities.
नाहि ज्ञानेन सदृशं पवित्रम् इह विद्यते तत्स्वयं योगसंसिद्धः कालेनात्मनि विन्दति.
In this world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism, and one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time.
श्रद्धावान् लभते ज्ञानं तत्पर संयतेन्द्रिय ज्ञान लब्धा परां शान्तिम् अचिरेण अधिगच्छति.
A faithful man who is dedicated to a transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge, and having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace.
अज्ञश्च अश्रद्धानश्च संशयात्मा विनश्यति नायं लोकोऽस्ति न परो न सुखं संशयात्मनः.
But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next.
योग संयस्त कर्माणं ज्ञान समचिन्न संशयम् आत्मवन्तं न कर्माणि निबध्नन्ति धनंजय.
One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus he is not bound by the reactions of work, O conqueror of riches.
ऋतं ज्ञानासीनात्मना छिन्नेव संशय योगम अतिष्ठोतिष्ठ भारत.
Therefore, the doubts which have arisen in your hearts out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga of Bharata, stand and fight.
Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport to the 4th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of transcendental knowledge.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, hold this mic like this. Your hand should be closer because this is where it receives. If you hold like this, it's not going to receive. Okay, so please hold it as close as possible.
Chapter 5, Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. Arjuna Uvacha Sanyasam Karmanam Krishna Punar Yogam Cha Shamshasi Yachreya Etayor Ekam Tanme Bruhi Sunishchitam.
Arjuna said, O Krishna, First of all, you ask me to renounce work, and then again you recommend work with devotion. Now, will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial?
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Sannyasah Karma Yogascha Nishreya Sakaravubhau Tayostu Karma Sannyasat Karma Yogo Vishishyate.
The personality of God had replied, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. But of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work.
Shreya sa nitya sannyasi yo na dveshti na kankshati nirdvandvo hi mahabaho sukham bandhat pramuchyate.
One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated, O mighty armed Arjuna.
Sankhya yoga prathakbalaha pravadanti na panditaha ekam api asitat samayog uday ubhayor vindate phalam.
Only the ignorant speak of devotional service, karma yoga, as being different from the analytical study of the material world, Sankhya. Those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieve the results of both.
Yat sankhya prapyate sthanam tad yogair api gamyate ekam sankhyam cha yogam cha ya pashyati sa pashyati.
One who knows that the position reached by means of analytical study can also be attained by devotional service, and who therefore sees analytical study and devotional service to be on the same level, sees things as they are.
Sanyasastu mahabaho dukham aptum ayogataha yoga yukto munir brahma na chirenadi.
Merely renouncing all activities, yet not engaging in the devotional service of the Lord, cannot make one happy. But a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay.
Yoga yukto vishuddhatma vijitatma jitendriyaha sarva bhutatma bhutatma kurvan api na lipyate.
One who works in devotion, who is pure soul, and who controls his mind and sense is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled.
Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tattvavit pashyan shrunvan sprishan chigran ashnan gachan swapan swasan pralapan visrujan grannam unmishan nimishan api indriyartheshu vartanta iti dharayan.
A person in the divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping, and breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, or opening or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he is aloof from them.
Brahmanyadhya karmani sangam tyaktva karoti yaha lipyate na sapapena padma patram ivambhasa.
One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results onto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water.
Kayena manasa buddhya kevalair indriyair api yoginaha karma kurvanti sangam tyaktva shuddhaye.
The yogis, abandoning attachment, act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses, only for the purpose of purification.
Yuktaha karma phalam tyaktva शान्तिम् आप्नोति नैष्टिकीम् अयुक्तः कामकारेण फले सक्तो निबध्यते.
The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the results of all activities to me. Whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled.
सर्व कर्माणि निमानस संन्यास्यस्ते सुखम वशी नवीद्वारे पुरे देहि नैव कुर्वन्न कारयन्.
When the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally overcomes, renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done.
न कर्तृत्वं न कर्माणि लोकस्य सृजति प्रभु न कर्म फल संयोगं स्वभावस्तु प्रवर्तते.
The embodied spirit, master of the city of this body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature.
नादत्ते कस्यचित् पापं न चैव सुकृतं विभु अज्ञेन नावृतं ज्ञानं तेन मुह्यन्ति जान्तवः.
Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge.
ज्ञानेन तु तत् ज्ञानं येषां नाशन्ति मनः तेषाम् आदित्यवत् ज्ञानं प्रकाशयति तत्परम्.
When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nascence is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime.
तद्बुद्धयस्तद् आत्मानस् तन्निष्ठास्तत्परायणाः गच्छन्त्यपुनरवृत्तिं ज्ञाननिर्धूतकल्मषः.
When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation.
विद्या विनय संपन्ने ब्राह्मणे गविहस्तिनि शुनीचेन स्वपाके च पंडिताः समदर्शिनः.
The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and a gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater.
इहैव तैर्जितः सर्गो येषां सम्ये स्थितं मनः निर्दोषं हि समं ब्रह्म तस्माद् ब्रह्मणि ते स्थितः.
Those whose minds are established in the sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman.
न प्रोह्यर्षेत् प्रियं प्राप्य नोद्विजेत् प्राप्य च प्रियं स्थिर बुद्धिर असम्मूढ़ो ब्रह्मविद् ब्रह्मणि स्थितः.
A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God is already situated in transcendence.
बाह्यस्पृशेष्वा सक्तात्मा विन्द्यत्यात्मनि यत् सुखं स ब्रह्म योग युक्तात्मा सुखम अक्षयम आश्नुते.
Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme.
येहि संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्तः कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधः.
An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them.
शक्नोति हैव यः सोढुं प्राक्शरीर विमोक्षणात् कामक्रोधो भवं वेगं स युक्तः स सुखी नरः.
Before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world.
योऽन्त सुखोऽन्तर आरामास् तथान्तर ज्योतिरेव यः स योगी ब्रह्म निर्वाणं ब्रह्मभूतोऽधिगच्छति.
One whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme.
लभन्ते ब्रह्म निर्वाणं ऋषयः क्षीणकल्मषः छिन्नद्वैधा यतात्मानः सर्वभूतहिते रताः.
Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme.
कामक्रोध विमुक्तानां यतीनां यतचेतसाम् अभीतो ब्रह्म निर्वाणं वर्तते विदितात्मनाम्.
Those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection and assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future.
स्पर्शान् कृत्वा बहिर्बाह्यां चक्षुश्चैवान्तरे भ्रुवोः प्राणापानौ समौ कृत्वा नासाभ्यन्तरचिरणौ यतेन्द्रियमनोबुद्धिर्मुनिर्मोक्षपरायणः विगतेच्छाभयक्रोधो यः सदा मुक्त एव सः.
Shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eye and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, and thus controlling the mind. Sense and intelligence, the transcendentalist aiming at liberation becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always is the state of certainly liberated.
भोक्तारं यज्ञतपसां सर्वलोकमहेश्वरं सूहृदं सर्वभूतानां ज्ञात्वा मां शान्तिमृच्छति.
A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries.
Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 5th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of Karma Yoga or action in Krishna consciousness.
Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare.
Chapter 6 Dhyana Yoga. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Anashrita Karma Phalam Karyam Karma Karotiya Sasannyasi Sayogi Cha Nani Rangnirna Chakriya.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work, and one who works as he is obligated in the renounced order of life, and he is the true mystic, nor he who lights no fire and performs no duty.
Yam sannyasam iti prahur yogam tam vidhi pandava न हि असन्न्यास्तसङ्कल्पो योगी भवति कश्चन.
What is called renunciation, you should know to be the same as yoga or linking oneself with the Supreme. O son of Pandu, for one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification.
आरुक्षोर्मुनेर्योगं कर्म कारणम् उच्यते योगरूढस्य तस्यैव शमः कारणमुच्यते.
For one who is a neophyte in the eightfold yoga system, work is said to be the means. And for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means.
यदा हीनेन्द्रियार्थेषु न कर्मस्वनुषज्जते सर्वसङ्कल्पसन्न्यासी योगरूढस्तदोच्यते.
A person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities.
उदारेत आत्मनात्मानं नात्मानं अवसाद्ययेत आत्मैव हि आत्मनो बन्धुर आत्मैव रिपुर आत्मनः.
One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well.
बन्धुर आत्मा आत्मनस्तस्य येन आत्मैत्वात्मनः जित अनात्मनस्तु शत्रुत्वे वर्तेत आत्मा इव शत्रुवत्.
For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy.
जितात्मनः प्रसन्तस्य परमात्मा समाहित शीतोष्ण सुखदुःखेषु तथा मानापमानयो.
For one who has conquered the mind, the supersoul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same.
ज्ञान विज्ञान त्रितात्मा कुटोस्थो विजितेन्द्रिया युक्त इति उच्यते योगी समलोत्रस्म कंचना.
A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same.
सुहृन्मित्राय उदासीन मध्यस्थ देवस्य बन्धुषु साधुष्व अपि च पापेषु समबुद्धिर्विशिष्यते.
A person is considered still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral mediators, the envious friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners all with an equal mind.
योगी युञ्जित सततम् आत्मनं रहसि स्थित एकाकी एतचित्तात्मा निराशीर अपरिग्रह.
A transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind, and self in relationship with the Supreme. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness.
शुचौ देशे प्रतिष्ठाप्य स्थिरम् आसनम् आत्मनः नाति उच्चरितं नाति निचलं चलञ्जीन कुशोस्तरम्. तत्रैकाग्रं मनः कृत्वा यत्तचित्तेन्द्रियक्रिया उपविश्यासने युञ्जायात् योगम् आत्मविशुद्धये.
To practice yoga, one should go to secluded places and should lay khusya grass on the ground and then cover it with a deer skin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activities and fixing the mind on one point.
समकायाशुरो ग्रीवं धार्यन् अचलं स्थिर सम्प्रेक्ष्य नासिकाग्रं स्वं दिशश्चानवलोकयन् प्रसन्नात्मा विगताभिर्ब्रह्मचारी व्रते स्थितः मनः संयम्य युक्त आसीत् मत्परः.
One should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the top of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life.
युञ्जुन् एवं सदात्मानं योगी नियत मानसा शान्तिं निर्वाण परमां मत्समस्तं अधिगच्छति.
Thus, practicing constant control of the body, mind, and activities, the mystic transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God by cessation of material existence.
नाति अस्नातस्तु योगोस्ति न चैकान्तम् अनासनन्त न चाति स्वप्नशीलस्य जाग्रतो नैव चार्जुन.
There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi, or Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough.
युक्त आहार विहारस्य युक्त चेष्टस्य कर्मसु युक्त स्वप्नावबोधस्य योगो भवति दुःखः.
He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material planes by practicing the yoga system.
यदा विनियतं चित्तम् आत्मनि एव अवस्थितः निष्पृह सर्वकामेभ्यो युक्त इति उच्यते तथा.
When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga.
यथा दीपो निवातोस्तो नेन गते सोपमा स्मृता योगिनो यच्चित्तस्य युञ्जतो योगम आत्मना.
As a lamp in a windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist whose mind is controlled remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendent self.
यत्र परमते चित्तं निरुद्धं योगसेवया यत्र चैवात्मनात्मानं पश्यन् आत्मनि तुष्यति सुखम् आत्यात्मिकं यत्तद् बुद्धिग्राह्यम् अतीन्द्रियं वेत्ति यत्र न चैवायं स्थितश्चलति तत्त्वतः यं लब्ध्वा चापरं लाभं मन्यते नाधिकं तथा यस्मिन् स्थितो न दुःखेन गुरुनापि विचलायते तं विद्या दुःख संयोग वियोगं योग संजितम्.
In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from the material contact.
सनिश्चयेन युक्ताव्यो योगर्निर्विण्ण चेतसा संकल्प प्रभवान् कामं त्यक्ता सर्वम् असेतस मनसैवेन्द्रियग्रामं विनियम्य समन्तः.
One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination in faith and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of material speculation, and thus control all the senses on all sides of the mind.
शने शने उपरमेद बुद्धयादिति गृहीता आत्मसंस्थं मनः कृत्वा न किंचदि अपि चिन्तयेत्.
Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence, sustained by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else.
यतो यतो निश्चलति मानश्चञ्चलम् अस्थिरं ततस्ततो निमयन्तात् आत्मनि एव वशं नयेत्.
From whenever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self.
हिनं योगिनं सुखमुत्तमम् उपैति शान्तिरजसं ब्रह्मभूतम् अकल्मषम्.
The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion, he realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme, and thus he is freed from all reactions to past deeds.
युञ्जनेवं सदात्मानं योगी विगतकल्मषः सुखेन ब्रह्म संस्पर्शम् आत्मानि सुखमुन्यते.
Thus, the self-controlled yogi, constantly engaged in yoga practice, becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord.
सर्वभूतस्थम् आत्मानं सर्वभूतानि चात्मनि ईक्षते योगोत्मा सर्वत्र समदर्शनः.
A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere.
यो मा पश्यति सर्वत्र सर्वं च मयि पश्यति तस्याहं न प्रणश्यामि स च मे न प्रणश्यति.
For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me.
सर्वभूतस्थितं यो मे मां भजत्येकम् एवमस्थितः सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि स योगी मयि वर्तते.
Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the Super Soul, knowing that I and the Super Soul are one, remains always in me in all circumstances.
आत्मोपयेन सर्वत्र सम्पश्यति यो अर्जुन सुखं वा यदि वा दुःखं स योगी परमो मतः.
He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and their distress, O Arjuna.
Arjuna uvacha yo ayam yogastva proktam samyena madhusudana etashaham na pashyami chanchala stitam stiram.
Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have to summarized appears impractical and undurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady.
Chanchalam himanah krishnam pramati balvadranam tashaham nigrahe manne vayo rivasudushkaram.
The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna, and to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind.
Shri Bhagavan uvacha ashanchayam mahabaho manodunigraham chalam abhyasen tu kaunteya vairagyam cha grahante.
Lord Shri Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunati, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment.
Ashanshayatmana yogo dushprapya iti me matihi vashyatma tu yatata shakyo vaptam upayataha.
For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. But He whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. That is my opinion.
Arjuna uvacha ayati shraddhayopeto yogacchalitamanasah aprapya yoga samsiddhim kam katim krishna gacchati.
Arjuna said, O Krishna, what is the destination of the unsuccessful transcendentalist who in the beginning takes the process of self-realization with faith, but who later resists due to worldly mindedness and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism?
Kachinno bhaya vibhashrita chinna braham eva nashyati apratishto mahabhao vimudo brahmanah pathi.
O mighty armed Krishna, does not such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere?
Etame sanchayam Krishna chetum arhasi echeshasha twadanyam sanchanyashasya cheta nahi upapadyate.
This is my doubt, O Krishna, and I ask you to dispel it completely. But for you, no one is to be found who can destroy this doubt.
Shri Bhagavan uvacha parthane vehanamutra vinatasya vidyate nahi kalyana krita kaschida durgitam tatagacchati.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction either in this world nor in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil.
Prapya punya kritam lokan ustasva shashvati sama shuchina shrimatam gehe yoga brashto vijayate.
The unsuccessful yogi, after many years of enjoyment on this planet, on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy.
Athava yoginameva kule bhavati dhimatam etvidhi durlabhataram loke janmam yad ishram.
Or, if unsuccessful after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom, certainly such a birth is rare in this world.
Tatratam buddhi samyogam labate parvavahikam yatate cha bhuyo sansiddho kurinandana.
On taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Kuru.
Purvyabhyasena teneva hiyate hivasho api saha jigyashu api yogasya shabda brahma vivartate.
By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles, even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures.
Prayatnat yata manastu yogi samsiddha kilvisha aneka janma samsiddha tato yati paramam gatim.
And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal.
Tapavisho adhikyogo janadibhyo matodhika karmabhyadashrita ko yogi tasmad yogi bhavarjana.
A yogi greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruitative worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi.
योगिनामपि सर्वेषां मद्गतेन रतात्मना श्रद्धावान् भजते यो मां समे युक्ता यतो मता.
And of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That's my opinion.
Chapter 7 Knowledge of the Absolute. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Mayatmaktam Partham Yogam Arjuna Shraya Sanshaya Samagram Mam Yatha Gnashasi Tuttatshunu.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt."
Jnanam te aham sa vignanam idam vakshyama sheshata yat janatpaneha bhuyo anyahi gnatavam avashishate.
I shall now declare you unto this knowledge, both phenomenal and numerous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know.
Manushyanam sahasreshu kashitatye siddhaye yatatmapi siddhanam kashit mamam veti tatvata.
Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth.
Bhumir apo anayo vyaya khamam mano buddhir ivacha ahaknam itatam me bhima prakti rasastata.
Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these 8 constitute my separated material energies.
Apareyam itastva anyama prakritam vidhi me param jiva bhutam mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat.
Besides these, O mighty armed Arjun, there is another superior energy of mine, which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature.
Itadyonini bhutani sarvanti upadharaya aham krutan sansraya jagata prabhava palasthata.
All created beings have their souls in these two natures of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world. Know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution.
Mata parataram nanya titastitashyati dhananjaya mai sarvamidam potram sutre mani gana iva.
O conqueror of wealth, Arjuna, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread.
Raso aham apshu kaunteya prabhasmi sashi suryayo pranava sarva vedeshu shabdaha ske parusham drushu.
O son of Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound and ether and ability in man.
Punyo gandha prithivyaam cha tejasrasmi vibhavaso jivanam sarva bhuteshu tapasyasmi tapasishu.
I am the original fragrance of the earth, and I am the heat in fire. I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penance of all assistic.
Bijam mam sarva bhutanam vidhi partha sanatanam buddhir buddhi mamatamasmi tejas tejasvinamaham.
O son of Pritha, know that I am the original seed of all existences, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful men.
I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life which is not contrary to religious principles, O Lord of the Bharatas, Arjuna.
mata eveti tanvidhi nata aham teshu. Know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am, in one sense, everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me.
Tripir guna mayor pavid ebehi servam idam jajar mam abya brahma.
Deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible.
Devihi asya ugunami mama maya guru mayam atantarantite.
This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it.
Namam aduskritino mata prapadayanta brahmadam mayorya paratasatjana asuram bhavam astritata.
Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the aesthetic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me.
Chaturvida badhanta mam jana chutartarvachana artarti tanishtha.
O best among the Bharatas, four kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the Absolute.
Desam jana siddhya yukta ekpat priyoi jana aham sana.
Of these, the wise one who is full knowledge in union with me through pure devotional service is the best, for I am very dear to him and he is dear to me.
Uttara sarva sevate nani tavya asata sahib yuknatam amyanam.
All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Being engaged in my transcendental service, he is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal.
Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare.
Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures.
Yo yo yam yam tanu bhaktaha shraddhya architum ichchati tasya lachasya chalam shraddham tameva vidyatami aham.
I am in everyone's heart as the super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity.
Satya shraddhya yuktas tasya aradhanam tadhe labte cha tatha kaman eva vihitan hitan.
Endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone.
Antavattu phalam tesham tad abhavti alpamedasam devan deva yajo yanti मद्भक्ता यान्ति माम अपि.
Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet.
Text 24. Avyaktam vyaktim apannam mannayante mam abuddhya param bhavam ajananto mam avyayam anuttamam.
Unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme.
Na aham prakashah sarvasya yogmaya samavritah mudo ayam abhinabhijanati loko mam ajam avyayam.
I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible.
Veda aham samtitani vartmanani cha arjuna bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedna kaschana.
O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me no one knows.
Ichha davesha samuddhena dvandav mohena bharata sarvbhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa.
O Shayan of Bharata, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arisen from desire and hate.
Yesham tav antgatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandav moha nirmukta bhajante mam dridvrata.
Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determinations.
Jara maran mokshaya mam ashriktya yatanti te baram tad vidu kritsnam adhyatmam karam cha khilam.
Intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. They are actually Brahman because they entirely know everything about transcendental activities.
Sa adi bhuta adi devam mam sadhi yagyam cha ye vidu paryan kale api cha mam te vidur yukta chetsaha.
Those in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation of the demigods and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. Thus end the Bhakti Vedanta purpose of the 7th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of knowledge of the Absolute.
Kim tad brahma kim adhyatmam kim karma purushottama adibhutam cha kim proktam adidevam kim uchate.
Translation. Arjuna inquired, O my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is the Self? What are the fruitive activities? What is its material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me.
Adi yagya katam kotra deheshmin madhusudana prayana kale chakatyam gyeyosiniatadatmabihi.
Who is the Lord of sacrifice, and how does he live in the body, O Madhusudana? And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death?
Shri Bhagavan Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavo Dhyatamam Uchate Bhuta Bhavo Bhavakaro Visarga Karma Samgitaha.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the indestructible, transcendental, living entity is called Brahman, and the eternal nature is called Adhyatma, the Self. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities is called karma, or fruitive activities.
Adibhutam ksharo bhavaha purushashascha devatam adiyagyoham evacha dehe dehabritam vara.
O best of the embodied beings, the physical nature which is constantly changing is called Adhibhuta, the material manifestation. The universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods, like those of the sun and moon, is called Adhidaiva. And I, the Supreme Lord, represented as the super soul in the heart of every embodied being, am called Adhiyajna, the Lord of sacrifice.
Antakale chamameva smaran muktva kalevaram ya prayati samadbhavam yati nashtachan samshayaha.
And whoever at the end of his life quits his body remembering me alone at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt.
Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tyajatante kalevaram tam tam mevaiti konteha sada tad bhava bhavitaha.
Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail.
Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhyacha mayar pita mano buddhir mam evaishasya samshayaha.
Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt.
Abhyasya yoga yuktena chetasa nanagamina paramam purusham divyam yati partanu chintayan.
He who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated, the path he or Partha is sure to reach me.
Kavim Purana Manusashitaram Manodariyam Samanushmaridya Sarvasya Datta Ramachintarupam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat.
One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond this material nature.
Prayana kale manasachalene bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva Bruvor madhye pranamavesha samyak satam param purusham upaiti divyam.
One who at the time of death fixes his life here between the eyebrows and by the strength of yoga, with an undeviating mind, engage himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yadaksharam veda vido vadanti vishanti yadyatayo vitaragaha yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti tate param sangrahena pravakshe.
Persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkar, and who are great sages in the renounced order, enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now explain briefly explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation.
Sarvadvarani samyamya manohridi narudya cha murdanyadhyatmana pranam ashtito yoga dharanam.
The yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga.
Om itekaksharam brahma vyaharan mamanushmaran ya prayati tvajan deham sayati paramam gatim.
After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of